Color correction is such an important part of the post-production process. During this process, you should follow a workflow to achieve best results, starting by correcting individual shots for proper contrast, color balance, and saturation, and then you go through and establish shot-to-shot consistency, making sure that each of the shots within a scene look like they belong together. And finally, you have the option of stylizing your footage to add a particular look or style to the scenes in your film. Now, in order to go through the color correction process, you need two main things to do it right. First, you simply need to look with your eyes to determine exactly what you need to do. Second, you do need a series of video scopes to measure the results. In this movie, we'll take a look at the first part, where we analyze footage with our eyes. So in order to get an idea of this process, I'm going to take a look at a couple of images from the letterpress project. Now, full disclosure, I have doctored them a bit to give us a little bit more to discuss and to adjust, but it's not uncommon for you to find images like this that need a lot of help. So let's take this first shot of Felicia. As we go through each of these images, we immediately should ask ourselves some basic questions. First, what part of the image is supposed to be white and what part of the image is supposed to be black? How are the brightness and contrast? How are the colors, and is there a color cast? And how is the saturation level? First, what part of the image is supposed to be white and what is supposed to be black? Well, the wall behind her should measure at near white, and the sign in the background here, as well as perhaps some shadows in her hair and this woman's shirt, should be black. Next, how are the brightness and contrast? Well, this image is really dark, so it doesn't have a lot of brightness. It's also dim and muddy, so its contrast needs to be improved too. Next, how are the colors, and is there a color cast? The colors in this image are okay. When the brightness and contrast are improved, I think the color spectrum will open up a lot and make everything look a lot better. And I don't think there's an inherent color cast to this image. Finally, how is the saturation level? Again, this image is pretty dim, which really affects saturation, so we'll probably stand to raise the saturation quite a bit. I think we have a pretty good idea where we're going with the shot. Now, let's take a look at this shot of Anita. We're going to ask ourselves the same questions. What part of the image is supposed to be white, and what part of the image is supposed to be black? Well, the wall behind her should be approaching white, and I think the darkest part of her hair should approach black. Next, how are the brightness and contrast? Well, this image is not bright and it doesn't have a lot of contrast. That is, the brightest values aren't bright enough, and the darkest values aren't dark enough. It's just sort of flat. So we need to improve both brightness and contrast. Next, how are the colors, and is there a color cast? There aren't a lot of rich colors in this image, so we should try to improve that. And also, there looks to be a bluish color cast to this image. And finally, how is the saturation level? This image is pretty muted. It could really use a boost in saturation values. All right, so again, even before we begin measuring the video signal, we already have a jump start in what we need to do. This analysis part of the process will get easier and quicker, and soon you'll be able to perform the analysis in a matter of seconds before you dive into correction.